So glad that you pressed play on this episode, my friend. Thank you for tuning in to The Juggle is Real. I'm Andryanna, and I have such a beautiful conversation to share with you, talking about sustainability in life, whether that's looking at having more of an eco-conscious mindset, actually moving into action on the things that are most important to you, and doing it with a sense of purpose and mindfulness and intention that does not make you feel burnt out and more stressed. My guest for this episode is Melodie Reynolds, who is the founder of Elate Beauty. And she really merges eco consciousness with beauty innovation. Her background is in marketing, and she really has a passion for ethical entrepreneurship. Just so you know, Elate Beauty is that ethical beauty brand, and it has a vision of a world without single use cosmetics packaging. They make refillable, high performing vegan and cruelty free cosmetics with an ethical supply chain, responsible marketing, and sustainable reusable packaging. They are a B Corp certified company and they prioritize people and the planet. Now, Melodie launched Elate to redefine beauty norms. She has a commitment to clean, vegan, and cruelty free products that reflects her dedication to sustainability. And beyond her CEO duties, she advocates for conscious consumerism and female entrepreneurship. Melodie's leadership has propelled Elate Beauty into a globally recognized brand celebrated for its integrity and innovation. She remains a driving force in the industry, inspiring change and proving that beauty can thrive harmoniously with environmental responsibility. Her personal mission is to change the world one lipstick at a time. She is a Canadian, she is a mama, she has two beautiful children, and she shares her journey, the ups and the downs, how she's gotten to where she is. And we also talk about a recent appearance that she had on the Canadian show, The Dragon's Den. It's an incredible episode. I cannot wait for you to hear it. Let's dive right in.
Hey, I'm Andryanna, and this is the Juggle is Real podcast. As I share my ongoing journey from experiencing burnout to leading a more mindful and intentional life with better balance, I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started.
Hey, Melodie, welcome to The Juggle is Real. How is it going?
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Andryanna. It's going well. It's 2025. I'm ready for, a new year, new me, as we say. And how are
Totally.
you?
Oh my gosh. So I'm so happy to be sitting down with you, to be chatting. You know how much I love Elate and I use it in my beauty routine, my wellness routine. And so I'm so grateful that we can have this conversation because I think there's just so many incredible things that you're doing. I mean, we know that you're the founder of this incredible beauty brand, Elate Cosmetics. And last year you celebrated your 10th year in business. So congratulations. That's
Thank you.
incredible. I'd love to know more about the early days, the beginnings. Like, what were you doing 10 plus years ago? How did the idea come to you? And what were those initial steps that you took to sort of get your company off the ground?
Yeah, thank you so much. When I think about the last 10 years, 10 years is not that long a time in the grand scope of things, but it also feels like a lifetime ago, because I was a completely different person. I didn't have children. I was actually working in a corporate job. And, at that time in my life, I had already gone through, my quarter life crisis
Yeah.
um, and had, left behind a bunch of things that were no longer serving me. I changed my diet. I changed my entire social circle. because I was in a place where a lot of things in my life were very toxic. And one of the things that I started looking at was not only what I put in my body and who I surrounded myself with, but what I put on my body. I was a professional makeup artist, I was in the beauty industry, and yet I had never thought for a moment about what those ingredients were and what I was putting on myself and what I was putting on my clients until I had this catharsis as a young person. And so as a result of that, I changed my career. I moved from working in sort of beauty retail more to the corporate side of beauty. And I worked for a company specifically that was launching eco-friendly products, that was more thoughtful about the ingredients they were using, and that really introduced me to this idea of greenwashing. Because, people think that professionals in the beauty industry, we kind of know everything. I didn't know anything about greenwashing up to that point, even though I'd been in the industry at that point for a decade already. And so I started working for this company and really got to understand how products are made, what it takes to bring a product to market. I was the director of education for North America. So I did a lot of marketing, I did a lot of in person trainings, and I worked very closely with the chemists and our head office team that was over in Germany. It was a really exciting time in my life. I'll be honest. I was single. I had no children. I got to go to Europe like 3 times a year. It
Mm-hmm.
was wonderful. And then I started to notice those patterns that I had thought that I'd left behind, a few years before started to emerge again. I was so busy with work. They sent me, I traveled 28 days a month. I was constantly on airplanes. I was constantly losing touch with who I was and what I wanted to do in the industry because I was just working, working, working. And after I had that moment again, and I won't call it a breakdown, but it was almost a breakdown where I was like, wait a minute, I just left all this behind and now I'm doing it again. Just because I'm working for a company that I think is going to do better, I'm actually not doing better for me. And so I had this moment again, and part of it was now I was sitting in my home and we had just launched some new products and I was unwrapping those products. And I was specifically unwrapping a lipstick. And I left some plastic and some more plastic. And then the tube had plastic on it. And then the box was covered in plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I had made this little pile of garbage from this product that I was now holding in my hands. And and then I thought, well, I'm probably also not even going to finish this product because 90% of us don't finish the cosmetic products that we buy. It's just a thing. We get the dopamine hit from purchasing it, but we don't get any dopamine hit from finishing it for some reason. Um, and so that led me back to a place of, well, not only do I need to be concerned about what I'm putting on my body and in my body, but what am I leaving behind? What am I leaving behind for the world? And so I get emotional about it because in
Mm-hmm.
that moment, I realized that although I had made all of these changes in my life and I'd made new choices that I felt good about, I wasn't quite there. I wasn't quite to the point where I felt like the impact that I was making was positive enough. It was positive enough to feel really good at the end of every day, to go to bed every night and feel like I did my very best, to wake up every morning and look forward to what I had planned for that day, and to know that the legacy that I was leaving behind was positive. It doesn't need to be world changing, it just needs to be positive rather than negative. And so, you know, that quarter life crisis style, again, I was like, okay, well, now I need to change everything again. And at that point in my life, I had met someone who I am now married to, which is nice. So I guess that worked out.
Yeah.
But he he had an opportunity to leave Canada and to go to the UK to do a master's degree for 2 years. And he asked me if I would come. And I, without even thinking about it, said yes, because this is now an opportunity to take all of these things that I was trying to change about my life and really almost like new time, new place. And I can figure out what it is that I want to do that's going to leave that impact. And so we left Canada, we went to the UK, and I actually left my corporate job behind because I recognized that that company wasn't going to serve me for the future that I saw in terms of the impact I wanted to make in the beauty industry. And so when we got to the UK, I immediately, because I'm a firstborn daughter, so I immediately started overachieving,
Yeah.
and got my got
Been
my
there.
business got my business plan ready, and started doing a bunch of workshops and classes and getting certifications, and then I stopped myself for a moment, and it was this. This is so funny because it has nothing to do with beauty or with sustainability. But the pub culture in the UK is very prolific. And so my husband and I had met a group of his friends from master's program at a pub. And we were just having a social time. And I heard this music coming from somewhere in the pub, not like the music coming over the speakers, but like actual instruments being played. And I excused myself from the table and I was investigating because there's a band somewhere. There's something happening. And I finally found myself down to the dingy basement of this pub in London. And there was a circle of people all playing ukuleles. And I walked in and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like I just heard the music and I thought there was a band somewhere that they were missing." And one of the women said, "Oh no, yeah, we're a group. We meet here every Monday and every Thursday, and we play together. Would you like to join us?" And I said, "Yes, I absolutely would." I'd never picked
Wow.
up a ukulele before in my life. I played guitar, but I'd never thought about playing another instrument. And so I kind of put all of my business plans on pause, and I joined this ukulele group. And why that's significant is it was the first thing that I had done since I was a teenager, just because I felt like doing it. There was no aim. I wasn't going to become a world-class ukulele player. I wasn't going to be discovered, in a pub like Florence Welch or anything like that. I had a moment where I realized that all the things that I was trying to do, all the impact that I was trying to make, I couldn't make it if I didn't have joy in my own life, right?
Yes.
And so I joined this ukulele group, and we actually did end up forming a band, and we played gigs and festivals all around the UK for the 2 years that I was there. And it was the most fun that I have ever had in my entire life. And after that time period was up, I realized that you cannot change the world if you yourself can't change the way that you think.
Mhm.
And for me, joy has always been my default setting. I'm that person. I'm the like, oh, it's raining. It's good for the plants. Oh, like everything happens for a reason, and always trying to find those positive moments in order to keep going, right? To hold it together. And play, playing the ukulele in a ukulele band allowed me to realize that, you know, joy can be found in all of the moments, but we also need to hold space for other things too. And when we talk about leaving impact in the world, whether it's through being a parent, whether it's through being a business owner, I think that the most important thing to remember is that the impact that we make, if it's driven by joy, is always going to be longer lasting, right? Impact or changes that we make through fear or shame or guilt, those changes never last. It's the impact and the changes that we make through joy that will create a movement. And so that is how I then went back to my business plan. I tore it up and threw it away. And I started from a place of joy, from a place of wanting to help people see that the products that we use every single day for our beauty routines and rituals can create a long and lasting impact. They create an impact on you because they bring you more time and space and room for joy. And they create an impact on the planet because they leave a smaller footprint. And so it's my very long-winded story of how I ended up where I am today. Um, there's a little bit of beauty, a little bit of concern about ingredients, a lot of concern about the legacy we're leaving behind in terms of packaging and waste, but mostly it's about joy.
I love how this journey has brought you to where you are. I mean, it's incredible. and seeing and hearing so much emotion and so much feeling that it brought you to bring this to the world. And I love that you did something for yourself. I mean, in my self-care planner, the number one pillar of well-being is to nurture, and it's to do something that is just for you, just because it sparks joy, not a should, not because other people are doing it, not because, it's a trend or you think it will help you, but what do you actually love? And that then, can turn into and snowball into these other beautiful things, like you've said. And I love that I've gotten to know a little bit more about your journey through what you've just told. But I was actually introduced to you through your keynote speech that you did last April in Toronto. It was at Jillian Harris's event, Academy in the City. You were amazing. Your keynote was amazing. It actually was called Changing the World One Lipstick at a Time. So that story I'm a little bit familiar with, but I didn't know about the ukulele. And you talked about your why, and you talked about how Elate is truly doing everything that it can to support ethical, sustainable, and low waste cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
Also giving back and doing it in an industry that is based on shame-based marketing and oftentimes less than responsible practices. Like, so when you're talking about greenwashing, making it sound like, oh, we're doing things that are supporting the planet and, upping, our standards when it comes to love and kindness for ourselves, but not really doing it in an authentic way. So can you talk to me about this mission? So we know where you started, we know how it sort of came together, but how are you supporting that mission of kindness for ourselves, for each other, and for the planet? I just think it's so important today, and Elate really is making a difference and an impact. And I just love for the listener to know and to learn more about how you're doing that every single day.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you were in the room. That event, the Academy in the City event, was possibly the best event I've ever been to.
It
It
was
was
amazing.
just
Oh
so
yeah,
full of emotion and positivity, and yeah, of course the venue was stunning, as you know.
beautiful. Yeah,
Um,
Royal
but
York.
yeah, yeah. I think, the most important piece for me as we move through the world, because Elate is a lot of things, right? Like any individual, and I do treat my company like it's an individual, right? It's not me, it's my friend, right? It's my
Mhm.
friend that I just happened to create. I don't like to call it my baby anymore because it's 10, so it's been
Yeah.
around for a long time. I think, like anything, it has its own will and personality, and it is many, many things. We are a B Corp certified company, which means, the B stands for benefit, and companies that sign on as B Corp companies, we actually change the articles of incorporation of our companies so that no matter who owns the company, you have to continue to do good. You have to
Mm,
continue to be a benefit to people and the planet. And the point is to balance people, planet, and profit, right? Because as a for-profit company, part of our goal is to hopefully make a little bit of money.
mhm,
But with Elate, that balance, people always come first, because in the beauty industry, it's the people that tend to be exploited the most. And
mm,
part of that is that whole mentality of, you need to buy this product so that you can be worthy, so that you can be worthy of your own care and attention, so that you can be the acceptable face of woman. You can't leave the house unless you're presentable. And in order to be presentable, you need to buy this product. And those images and stories are thrown at us from the time that we are so small, and they seep their way into our subconsciousness, so that way we don't even know that we're doing it. we
mhm,
we think that every time we see the cover of a magazine, we're just looking at a magazine, but what we're actually seeing is the culmination of all the ways that we are not good enough, and all the advertisements in those magazines tell us the products that we can buy so that we will be good enough. And, I've always been a big proponent of really trying to counteract that fear and shame based marketing, because it makes us feel less than. So we buy more stuff we don't need. And so at Elate, not only are we B Corp certified, ethical, vegan, cruelty free, clean ingredients, refillable, sustainable, customizable packaging. That's my pitch. Not only are we all of those things, but we are also hyper focused on helping you buy less, but better. Buy the things that you need, that you love, that you're going to use until they're gone, and then refill them in a more sustainable way. Rather than throwing out an entire plastic package, you refill a non-plastic package. And not only does that help us achieve our business vision, but it helps us achieve our more global vision of a world where everyone takes their beauty into their own hands, where your beauty ritual is that moment in the day when you feel that first spark of joy, because you're using products that help you feel good about the way that you look and that actually don't hurt the planet. And so I think the most important for us as we move on, or maybe not most important, but the way that we live our values every day is by creating our products in a way that lives up to those standards, but also selling them in a way that helps our customers feel empowered to use less. And so I don't want you to buy 7 lipsticks because you don't need 7 lipsticks. And I think the most important, you know, part to realize is that the things that we own, they take up space. They take up space in our homes, they take up space in our minds, and they actually do take up space in our bodies. We feel that presence of having too much stuff, right? It's like clutter. Clutter makes us, nervous. And so think about when you open your beauty bag and you have 40 items in there. And this is an actual statistic. The average woman owns 40 beauty products, but we use only between 5 and 10 daily, depending on what your routine is. So if you have 40 products, but you're only using about 5 of them, wouldn't it make more sense to save your time and money and just buy the 5 that you use? And so that's where the capsule beauty philosophy comes in. And that is the pillar of kindness that we speak about a lot. And it's about buying only what you need, swapping it out for the seasons because we do want to have fun. Makeup is supposed to be fun. So even though you're going to wear that lime green eyeshadow once a year, that's an okay purchase. But knowing that that is a once, that's a one-time purchase as opposed to, your maybe your neutral brown and your shiny silver that you wear every single day. And so it's just about helping people recognize what their goals are with their beauty ritual, what makes them feel joy, and what is going to, create that time and space for them. And so with capsule beauty, we called it capsule beauty because we were trying to help people understand what we were trying to do. Because I'm not trying to make anyone a minimalist. I know some people don't like that word. I'm not trying to make you not have things that you want, but I'm trying to help you really create a beauty ritual that brings you joy and that ultimately, doesn't leave your counter cluttered with a bunch of stuff. And so we thought about the capsule wardrobe, right? Which is this
Yes.
movement to have less clothing, but still be able to make lots and lots of outfits. And I always say that I love a capsule wardrobe. I'm a failed capsule wardrobe person. I always start out with very good intentions and I put clothes away in a little bin, like in my storage area under my bed. And then I
Mhm.
only have my capsule pieces, but then slowly the other pieces will start coming back out, and that's
Sure.
okay. But with beauty, it's the same idea, right? Is that if you can have your wardrobe pared down to just the pieces you love, then you don't feel the need to go out and buy fast fashion. And it's the same with your beauty bag. If you have the pieces that you love that you're putting on every day, then you don't feel the need to go out and buy that lipstick that's going to potentially try to fill that lipstick shaped hole in your heart. Because that's often what we do, right? We feel bad. And so we buy things because that makes us feel better. But then ultimately the thing that we buy, if we don't use it, it makes us feel worse. So we're really trying to help people figure out what it is that they want to use every day, put that in their beauty bag, have it support their beauty ritual, and then, finish it and refill it.
I love it. I love it so much. I mean, we've recently kind of gotten over the holidays. So now, we've been inundated with ads and now we're into a new year. And so there's all this new year, new me, and
Yeah.
all the marketing is kind of just very overwhelming. And so I've really, really appreciated your messaging, which is just to shop intentionally, like you said, to buy thoughtfully. And I feel like, I mean, a lot of the listeners are either entrepreneurs or they're working for businesses that are for profit. And so you as a business owner, I mean, it might sound counterintuitive, right? Because you're telling people to buy less. And, you know, even the items that we are purchasing from Elate, I mean, the packaging is compostable. It's in, you know, you're refilling these beautiful bamboo pallets, and the ingredients that you're using are, you know, ethical and sustainable. But you're choosing to stick to your values. I'm sure you could sell a ton of product with different messaging, like you've mentioned, to make people feel less than so that they buy more. But you are really sticking to your guns here to not buy into that overconsumption mentality. So this decision as a business owner, can you talk to me? Because I want to talk about a recent appearance you had on Dragon's Den. But before that, how are you choosing to promote your business in ethical ways, but also balance out your profitability and be a successful business owner? Because I think a lot of us, we might have an idea, or we might want to be more sustainable, but of course, you know, we've got to put food on the table. We want to be successful as well. So talk to me a little bit about how you're doing this with Elate, because you've been around for 10 years. You must be doing something right.
Andryanna, I love this question so much because it is the number one question that I get asked, whether it's a panel of investors, whether it's, you know, I speak on some business panels to other entrepreneurs. There is a way to create a more ethical, conscious, and circular form of capitalism, right? If we are intent on, you know, buying, just constantly buying in order to fuel capitalism, there has to be an end, because eventually we can't buy any more stuff, right? Eventually your house gets full. Eventually you run out of money. And so this business model, and it's an archaic and antiquated business model of just skyrocketing revenues at all cost. It is not one that is sustainable. And I'm using sustainable here in the financial sense. It's actually not sustainable to constantly expect that every single thing that we make and we charge people for, they will be able to buy, because ultimately that it's just, I don't think that is the best business model. Because if you are selling people a product that the ultimate goal is for them to not use it, throw it away, have it break and not be able to be fixed, so that they need to come back and buy another product, that is not a good business, in my opinion. In my opinion, a good business is a business that provides a product or service that the person likes, so they complete that service or they complete that product, and then they come back to buy more. So here's the difference. In the business where you're selling the product with the intent that they come back and buy more before they need it, your revenue will grow probably really quickly. But you're either selling to another company, or you're, you know, eventually running out of customers, or there's lots of scenarios at the end game of that business. For me, rather than focus on, you know, earning $80 million in my first 10 years, I was focused on creating a legacy business. So recognizing that the type of customer that wants my product is going to be my customer forever. We're creating customer loyalty, because although, you know, I'm not doing 80 million in sales a year. There are beauty companies that do that, but that's not who we are. We're about creating long-lasting, legacy-based revenue with profitability. The thing about business, and this is something that, you know, I know we're going to talk about Dragon's Den in a minute, but it was really important to me after going on national television and having some things be said that I felt were really unfair to small business owners. You don't have to be doing 10 million a year to be successful. The amount of revenue you're making is not the marker of your success. Your marker of success is, are your customers coming back? What is your customer return rate? Are those customers purchasing from you again? And are you profitable? At the end of the day, have you brought in more money than you've sent out? That is the marker of a good business. So just because a company has, again, I'll use the 80 million term, just because a company has 80 million in revenue doesn't mean they're more successful than you because you only have 500,000. Because that company, surprisingly, might not actually be profitable. So just
Right.
because the number is huge doesn't mean they're more successful than you. And so when it comes to asking people to buy less, I'm asking them to buy less because that is what is creating the trust that we have with our customers. Our customers are the one who determines what types of products we make. Our customers are the ones that we reach out to when we're considering making a packaging change. And so we've created this incredible customer loyalty that means that the people that bought Elate in 2014, most of them still buy Elate in 2025. And so
Mhm.
that's allowed me to create, and I keep using the word legacy because I just like that word. It's a legacy of success because we have been profitable as a business almost from the very beginning. And that's because we are so focused on making sure that it's not about how many millions of products can we sell. It's about how many customers can we keep incredibly happy? How many customers can we partner with so they know that we're in this together? Our mission is only successful because they are purchasing our product, as long as they're not purchasing too much. So
Right.
it's about, right? And I don't want you to buy 7 lipsticks from me today, because if you buy 7 lipsticks from me today, that's, X amount of revenue today. But if you buy those 7 lipsticks from me over the next 2 years, I still get that same amount of revenue. It's just over the next 2 years. So that's the key difference there from a business perspective, is that we make the revenue, it just comes in over time. And because we're keeping those customers for longer, we actually have a much longer runway in terms of how long we'll be making that revenue for.
I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
for being so clear with how your business is structured, because I know there are so many of us who really do want to be building businesses or working for companies that are doing it the right way. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a marketing background, and the amount, like the cost it takes to gain a new customer compared to maintaining a relationship with an existing customer
Mm-hmm.
is, it far exceeds, that return on the investment. So if you're continually going out to get new customers, new customers, new customers, like you're saying, perhaps their revenue is growing, but the price you are paying in order to get all of those new customers is also extremely high. So I appreciate that. Not only is your focus on the mission to be kind to ourselves, to one another, and to the planet, you're also marketing your business in a way that will stand the test of time. You're not just another fad. You're not just another beauty trend. You're here to support your customers as long as they are choosing to wear cosmetics, which I think is
Yeah.
just so beautiful. So let's talk about now your your time on Dragon's Den. So this is an entrepreneurship reality show, and this is the Canadian version of Shark Tank, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you do is you pitch your business to a panel of venture capitalists in the hope of securing an investment
Mm-hmm.
in return for giving them equity in your business. So before we get into what actually happened, I would just love to learn more about the process. So how did this all get started? How did you decide to apply? It
Mm-hmm.
seems like you have, a very strong foundation for your business. So what was that process like of deciding, okay, I'm going to apply, finding out you got it and you're going to be pitching? How did you prepare for all of this? Tell me about everything.
I, oh, you know, so here's just another little tidbit for anyone out there who's looking to start a business. When you're setting up your business, you need to have some cash, right? And that
Mhm.
cash has to come from somewhere. And so there are lots of options. You can self-fund, you can take debt funding, which is through a lender or a bank, and you can
Mhm.
get an investor. There are a few different types of investors. Um, but from the very beginning, because of the type of business that I wanted to run, I was always wary of bringing on like a private equity or a venture capital firm, because they are so tightly focused on, again, how much revenue you are making, that I felt like I might be forced to make decisions that were not in line with our ethics, with our values, and with our ultimate goal of reducing waste in the beauty industry. And so my husband and I invested our life savings in this company. which, we were 35 at the time. And it wasn't a huge amount in terms of life savings, because how much life have you lived at 35? But it was enough to get us going. And I'm, I'm socially liberal, but fiscally conservative, as my husband always likes to say. And so through careful reinvestment, of our own money, through careful reinvestment of the profits from our company, we've been able to manage to, and it's called bootstrapping, right? When you do that for 10 years. And so every few years, I'll get the little bug of maybe I should get an investor, right? Because it would be really nice to just have a big bank account full of cash that I don't have to, stress out about our finances every month. But at the same time, there's a trade-off there, because then you have a partner whose money it is, who is worried about what's happening in the business. And so there'd never been an investor who'd presented themselves that felt like a right fit. And this is advice that doesn't come directly from me. It's just been said to me many, many times by business mentors and friends. You have to pretend that anyone who wants to invest in your business is someone that you're going to marry, because even though you're not physically getting into bed with them, you are getting into bed with them. When you look over at your partner every single night, you're like, well, I'm in bed with this person now.
Yeah.
And so that's what an investor is like. And so there hadn't ever been one that I was like, yes, I want to get into bed with this person. And so we'd done what we'd done. However, the opportunity to pitch for Dragon's Den came up. They do, what do you call it? Auditions. And you can go in person in Toronto. They do it in a few cities, but they were coming to Vancouver. And so I think they probably sent out an email that kind of blanketed a bunch of businesses in BC and said, come and audition. I couldn't physically go to Vancouver at the time because I'm here on Vancouver Island. So it's a ferry or a boat ride away. And with the kids, I just couldn't manage it. But they said, well, if you can't come, that's fine. Send us a video. So I sent a video of my pitch. And then they phoned me and said, we'd love you to come and pitch to our producers. And so I said, okay. So this is like a Zoom meeting where you're with the producers and you do your pitch. And then they ask you a few questions, and then that's it. And then you wait. And then a couple of weeks later, I got the phone call that they wanted me to come and be on television and pitch to the Dragons. And I honestly was so surprised. And I'll tell you why, because in all honesty, before I pitched to the producers, I'd never seen a single episode of Dragon's Den. I knew what it was, but I just never watched it. And so after I pitched the producers, I was like, well, I need to now watch every single episode that ever has been made. But sure. I specifically, and I started with, I have a bunch of friends that had been on Dragon's Den, friends that own, beautiful businesses out here in BC. And so I watched all of their episodes and I was like, okay. And then I went through and I started looking for beauty specific companies. And what I realized is that over the 19 seasons, there'd only been a handful of beauty companies on, and none of them had been offered an investment. Mm. And so I started to wonder what I had got myself into, because historically, they'd never invested in a company like mine before. And so I kind of shifted my perspective from, hey, maybe I'm going to get an investor, to this is a great opportunity to have my business be seen by a huge audience of people. And maybe, hopefully, have this panel of very experienced venture capitalists who can give me some feedback on my business. And so that was how I went into it. Was I nervous to go on TV? Yes. It's one of those things that, and the morning of, I was so mad because it rained on me. And so my hair was like not how I wanted it to be because it was rained on. And now when I watch it back, I'm like, that's all I notice is my hair. My hair was flat. But being on TV is interesting because you kind of, at first you notice all the cameras because they're everywhere. And then you kind of stop noticing them. And the best part of the experience was the crew. So all the producers and the camera operators and even the people that like bring your stuff to you, like they have tables and things. They set it all up for you. They're so lovely and wonderful. They're so excited about your product. some of the best conversations I've ever had about my mission and what we were doing were just with people on the crew, like the behind the scenes folks. So that was really refreshing and exciting. Pitching to the dragons. Again, it's television, so a lot of what you see on the segment was edited out. They edited out a lot of my pitch. I didn't get to talk about our proprietary ingredients. I didn't get to talk about quite a few things. And I think that what they're really looking for is good TV. And so there were a lot of things that were edited in a way. Now, were they hard on me? Yes. One dragon in particular, like, was really, really hard on me. And actually said a couple of things that ended up airing that were not true. Like when I talked about how my husband and I, invest money into the company, she took that and twisted it around. So it sounded like the only way my company is in business is because we keep putting money into it. But that's not how business works, right? And so there were a couple of things that I was disappointed with in terms of how it aired. But overall, the experience was, I've been running a successful business for a decade. And if these 4 investors sitting on a television, set don't see the value in what I'm doing, that's okay. Because I didn't go on expecting an investment, and not getting one isn't going to make me go out of business. And so I now think about it as that was a really hard thing. As an adult woman, having other adult women be mean to you, like, I don't know how else to describe it. Like it really felt like it felt like I was being bullied. Like I felt like I was back in high school. There were a few moments when I was like, why have I put myself in this situation? But then there were other moments when I was like, nope, this is fine. This is I think there were a lot of things said that were perhaps to try to elicit a reaction from me, because again, it is television. But at the end of the day, I did get some good feedback. There was some positive feedback given to me. It just didn't air, but there was very much a, the idea of having a longevity plan for revenue is really important. The focus on having profitability, that's really important. And the fact that, what we're doing is really interesting and engaging. And because we've been doing it for so long, it is what all the other beauty companies are trying to do. And so I took that feedback and I took the experience and I kind of file it away under, Melodie, you can do really hard things.
Mhm.
You can also, take those hard things and be sad about them. I was sad for a little while after, because there was that point of feeling like you're in a room where people don't want you to succeed. And that's kind of how it feels. If you go and you pitch to investors, and I pitched to investors before it and got no's, but even in those rooms, I still felt like those people were like, oh, good for you. You're running a business. Well done. But in that room, it actually felt like they actively wanted me to fail. And so that was kind of a hard thing to go through. But to then get to the other side and go, no, they don't want me to fail. They just want to make good TV. And, to be able to take that experience and now go, I did it. I can do a hard thing. And it doesn't take me away from my mission. It doesn't take me away from my focus. We had another profitable year last year. And so it now turns my attention to, well, now I want to be invited back in 5 years so I can tell them how successful I am. Right? Now I want to be invited back to say, hey, you didn't invest in me, and that's okay. And but even in 5 years, they probably still won't want to invest in me, because, we are that company looking for longevity, as opposed to, looking for the extremely quick revenue growth that ends up being a flash in the pan. So I'm really grateful to especially the producers and the crew and everybody there who made it such a lovely experience. I'm grateful to have had that hard moment. It's not often that we have the opportunity to know we're putting ourselves in a hard situation and
Mm-hmm.
then to be able to know, okay, how am I going to react to this and how am I going to figure out what to do with all those feelings afterwards? Um, because often when we're running businesses, we tend to forget that it's okay to feel about things. We have to look at things analytically, and we have to look at things through the lens of decision making. Often people, if I go to a party, it's just been party season, right? If I go to a party and I don't know someone and they ask me what I do for a living, I say I make decisions for a living, because
Yeah.
that's really all that's really all you do, right? Every single day. And so we often get into this realm of, it doesn't matter how I feel about it, right? I just have to make the decision. But I do make a lot of decisions with my intuition, right? In addition to the data set and the facts. And so, you know, I think it's okay to allow ourselves to feel the way that we feel about events that happened, or to put ourselves in a situation that we know is going to feel hard, because it's not going to kill you. It's only going to allow you to look back and, take from it what you need, leave behind what you don't, improve the things that feel good for you to improve, and carry on knowing that you are making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for doing that. I mean, I think we can all remember a time or multiple times in our lives where we've gone through challenging situations that have tested us, that have put us through the ringer, that have felt really difficult, that have felt like, this is the end of the world at the time. And we can look back and now think, okay, I'm so glad that I've moved on, or I'm so glad that it taught me this lesson, or now I know so much more, looking back. Right. But you can only do that when you connect the dots looking backward. You can't look into the future and say, this is what's going to happen. And so most of the time we aren't doing this on national television. So kudos to you for willingly putting yourself in this position to inevitably grow and learn and come through and get onto the other side of it with
Mhm.
so much growth and learnings and now a whole new perspective. By the way, of this
Ah!
video can be found on Instagram on the Elate Cosmetics profile. I'll put a link in the notes for this podcast
Oh,
episode
thank
as
you.
well. But I really do actually love on Elate. You're gonna have to scroll a little bit, but the video of your kids
Oh,
responding to the judge's decision of them saying no,
yeah.
that they weren't going to invest. I mean,
Hmm.
I completely understand. I know the magic of editing and,
Hmm.
in reality television, I mean, it looks so polished, it looks so quick, and it looks so swift.
Hmm.
And of course, they're there to, create a piece of entertaining content. So I can
Hmm.
completely understand how things may have been put together in a way that wasn't necessarily the exact situation. But what I would
Hmm.
love to know, now that you're on the other side of it, you've been through it, you've heard what happened, the decision of that they weren't going to invest, you had to share the news with your family, you had to wait probably painstakingly, felt like a long time, months
Hmm.
until the show actually aired. But now, how are you moving forward,
Hmm.
both as the founder and someone who's running this incredible company, but also how are you choosing to move forward with Elate specifically, and how you're running that business?
Yeah, and I mean, and thank you so much for watching that little video. My kids were so cute. Like, it was adorable when I showed them, and my daughter was so like, why is that lady so mad at you? Like,
Yeah.
she really was very confused. And and my response to her was, well, she wasn't mad at me. She just didn't think our business was a good business. And and that is really the key, for not only for myself, but for any small business owner out there. There's always going to be someone who doesn't think your business is a good business. And like my 5-year-old says later on in that video, well, we like it. And that's true.
And
And
it's
that
so
is,
true, because
yeah.
what children can say often is like, it takes us years to come back to these very profound truths that are so simple. But
Yeah.
like, you're not for everyone. Your business
No.
is not for everyone, but it
Yes.
is for those who will truly love it and who will truly, truly take it and become loyal like I am,
Yeah.
because I truly do
Well,
love this company. So I
oh,
think,
thank you.
like sometimes we have to continue learning these lessons. But
Yeah.
for me in my life, I was like, very scared of what people thought of me all the time, all the
Hmm.
time, all the time. Well, I wouldn't be here. I could not sit here and do the work that I'm doing if I was always so concerned about the people who didn't like what I was doing. But I'm
Yeah.
here because I know that there are people, and thank you so much, listener, who are really here not to judge but to learn and
Hmm.
to gain that better perspective, or because they love what you're doing. So yeah, continue, because I just would love to know how you're taking this
Aw.
experience and moving on.
Thank you. Yeah, and I agree. And I think a lot of us have that, Andryanna, where we are so paralyzed by, oh no, what will people think, right? Or like how can I move past this place of feeling judged and just be free to do what I want to do? And yeah, and sometimes kids are, out of their mouth comes the thing that you're like, oh yeah. But that in itself is the crux of the success off of the back of what seemingly looks like a failure. So on national television, four smart investors told me they did not want to invest in my business. And what that did for the Elate community was absolutely magical, because for 10 years, we've been gathering this community of folks, and I call it a community rather than customers, because many people in the Elate community are people that love what we're doing, but maybe haven't necessarily purchased the product, maybe because they don't use it or because it's just not in their price point. But we have people that are just like, I'm here to support you. I'm here to share your stories and do your things. And so the Elate community is so involved that the moment that that episode aired, it was like this surge of indignant anger that how
Oh.
dare these people not see the value in what we're doing. And and I like to think that I did manage a lot of one-on-one conversations, and I tried to manage it, through our social media channels and our newsletters as well, that like, yeah, they didn't want to invest, and that's okay. But people were so upset and so angry, not that they did want to invest, but mostly just in the way that they were, well, this business isn't important. Well, this business is, other people are doing this already. Or, and I think not only because our customers and our community are such staunch supporters of our mission, but also the fact that they really wanted to showcase, well, we love this brand. You may not love this brand, but we love this brand. We love the mission. We love what they're doing. And so we're going to help support. And so being on Dragon's Den meant that I didn't get an investment, but what I did get is a reinvestment of our community. Like they have re-upped and re-supported. And it was just a moment when almost every single person who knows about our brand put their hand up and said, no, me, I love what you're doing and I want to be a part of it. And so that has been so incredible, because yeah, after 10 years of running a business, you sometimes will lose sight of how much people love what you're doing, right? Especially when things are hard, and as a business owner, things will be hard. You will never ever leave a period of being a business owner unscathed. There will always be things that are hard. But, so after 10 years of ups and downs and challenges and hard things, in that moment of recognizing what I had built and how it had become its own entity, and how all of the people in this community came behind us to say, we love what you're doing. That is what is helping me move forward. And, like I said, right after, I didn't expect to get an investment based on how they historically worked with beauty companies. But I will admit, I was hoping to be the exception, right? But, leaving without the investment, and instead of kind of walking away with my tail between my legs, I did walk away with my head held high, because I have that community behind me saying, you know, those people are not necessarily the ones using your product. We are the ones using your product. We're using it every day and we love you, and we're giving you our money, right? And they
Mhm.
are. They purchase our product, they keep us in business, they keep us successful, so we can continue giving back and, creating products that leave no trace. And so that is how I'm moving forward. It's with that buoyancy and that joy from our community. And you're a part of it. And I hope some of your listeners are a part of it too. So thank you, because that's really what gives me the strength every day to keep moving forward.
I think maybe more meaningful to hear from those who are actually, using it and supporting it and
Hmm.
giving you that fuel to move forward. So kudos for
Yeah.
sure. Kudos.
Yeah.
Melodie, as we close out the episode, I often ask this question to all my guests, and it's kind of why I'm here for how we as women, how we care for ourselves, and in a way that allows us to be more intentional and lead our lives and the juggle and everything that's on our plate with a little bit more grace. And I know that this is important to you as well, but as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a busy person who wears so many hats and quote makes decisions for a living, what are those big learnings that you've faced on your journey, and how are you supporting yourself to ensure that
Mhm.
you're able to continue to come back to continue your mission of kindness while also being sure to extend it towards yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I love this question so much. It really is, it's something I think about a lot, and it's something I talk about a lot with the other women in my lives, in my life. I guess lives. Um,
Feels
but
that
just,
way sometimes.
yeah, it does feel that way. I have many lives. Is how, yeah, how do we prioritize ourselves when nothing is ever in balance? I
Mhm,
have a good friend of mine introduced me to this concept a few years ago of flow rather than balance. So
mhm,
when we think about balance, we think about the scales, right? And in order to have balance on a set of scales, the things that are on either side need to weigh the same. But my kids don't weigh the same as my business. My business doesn't necessarily weigh the same as my health. My family doesn't weigh the same as my friends. Like, these things have all different weights, and on
mhm,
any given day, the weight can change. And so this idea of balance it's a complete fallacy, because you can't ever balance things that don't weigh the same.
mhm.
And so the idea of flow is more, and I always picture myself, because I'm Canadian, in a canoe,
Yeah.
like, right? Paddling down a river. And sometimes it's fast and sometimes it's slow and sometimes there are rocks to avoid. But ultimately, I can keep moving forward. Sometimes I'm tired, sometimes I'm hungry, but being able to move with flow is what I try to focus on. And to do that, I need three things. I need time for myself. I need time with my family and friends, and I need time to do nothing. And I think those three things are really important. And the way that I achieve that with all the things I need to do in the day is I actually schedule it in my calendar, which I know sounds crazy and it won't work for everyone, but it works for me. So I have a block in my calendar. It's actually at 11:30 today that says do nothing. And it's 30 minutes and I can do nothing during that time. And I think part of scheduling in the time for yourself is to make it non-negotiable. I like to be physical every day. In fact, I did a workout right before I came to speak to you. I have to schedule that in. I take my son to swimming lessons. That's in my calendar. And I actually put these things in my calendar and I make them a color that's for me. So my color is orange. And so when I open up my calendar for the week right now, I have at least two orange blocks every single day. And when I look at that on my calendar, that makes me feel like, okay, yep, I've got two orange blocks every day. That means two blocks that are for Melodie and Melodie's things that are not related to the business, that are not grocery shopping. That's not
Yeah.
personal time. That's not
Yes.
personal time, right? That are not grocery
Agreed.
shopping, that are not doing laundry. That's not time for you, right? So when I have those color coded blocks, then I feel this great sense of peace, because I know what I've done is I've built future resilience to challenges into my life today. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but if something comes up that's going to challenge me or stress me out or make me feel, like I hit a block, because I had those orange blocks for myself today, I will be rested. I will hopefully be free of some anxieties. I will, be able to look at that challenge with perspective, because I've had those moments to myself. And so that's always the thing that I hold really close, is knowing that I can schedule resilience to future challenges in today.
Wow. So far, this is just blowing my mind. I love this. And I think it's so doable. I mean, and I believe it's Dan Sullivan who has written a number of books. He's a very famous coach, but he, at the beginning of the year, maps out almost half the year in days off where he's not working. And I just think maybe it's not doable from that perspective, but can you take 2 small windows in your day to put something in there for you? And I love that you've color blocked it. Maybe it's your experience with cosmetics and beauty that you love the colors.
Visual.
My color would be pink for sure.
Nice.
For sure I would be pink, but I love that you're doing this for yourself. And I also just want to mention too, that when I email you, I receive a response and it's in the footnotes. And this is something that I truly, truly admire, that that you check your emails twice a day, and that, you're not, a slave to your inbox, and that you will respond and you will reply when it is within those 2 blocks, but you're not sitting there and every time a notification pops up, you're running to your screen or you're checking whatever that was. So I think, if someone who is as busy as you can manage such a full schedule, but still put in time for herself and still have those boundaries that you can be really firm with, and also be successful, and also have beautiful children that you spend time with, and also be in a place where you feel like you can respond versus react when those challenges occur. I think that's really beautiful. And I admire that in you. And I think it's something that is really, really inspirational. So thank you so much, Melodie, for being here, for sharing this incredible journey, and for doing what you do day in and day out to support our planet, to support us, and to really ensure that kindness mission is being lived out.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, this conversation has definitely filled my cup. I often find that listening to inspirational people and hearing the stories and the journeys that people like Melodie have gone through, it really does put me in a place where I feel more motivated, where I feel like life's challenges are a little bit more doable, and I feel like I can move forward in a way that's going to work for me, right? In ways and modes and in methods that are true to what I love, what I value, and what I think is important in this world. And that's exactly what Melodie is doing. I've included some links in the notes for this podcast episode. So yes, you can watch her Dragon's Den episode and her pitch, which was so incredible, by the way. You can connect with her on social media, and you can check out Elate Cosmetics if you haven't already, to see if there are certain things that you might need if you want to start that capsule beauty collection, perhaps to purchase a bamboo palette and to fill it with those items that you're going to love and come back to. If you liked this episode, I would so appreciate if you could rate it, maybe write me a short and sweet review in Apple Podcasts so that you can help other people find the Juggle Israel as well, and share it with a friend, someone who would love hearing Melodie's story and who could benefit and gain from it as well. Come back, make sure you're subscribed for another episode of The Juggle Israel. We've got so many great episodes coming up this year. Until then, sending you so much love. I'm so thankful that you've tuned in, and take good care. We'll see you soon.